Good evening. This is All India Radio. I'm Anubha Rohatki and with me is Abhijit Loreng with the evening news. The headlines. Finance Ministry releases 6,000 crore rupees to states to address shortfall in GST revenue. Electioneering in full swing in Bihar. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Congress leader Rahul Gandhi address election rallies. Government imposes stock limit to check rise in onion prices. Health Minister Dr. Harshvardhan says next 3 months will be decisive to contain COVID-19 in the country. COVID recovery rate improves to 89.53%. And in IPL cricket, match between Chennai Super Kings and Mumbai Indians is underway at Sharjah. As the nation fights the COVID-19 pandemic, we begin with a message of precaution to stay safe and protected by following these 3 simple steps. Wear a face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki duri for social distancing and focus on hand and face hygiene. And now, the news in detail. The central government today borrowed and transferred 6,000 crore rupees as first tranche to 16 states and 2 union territories. They are Andhra Pradesh, Assam, Bihar, Goa, Gujarat, Haryana, Himachal Pradesh, Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Meghalaya, Odisha, Tamil Nadu, Tripura, Uttar Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Delhi and Jammu and Kashmir. The Ministry of Finance in a statement said that the borrowing is at an interest rate of 5.19%. It is intended to make weekly releases of 6,000 crore rupees to the states. It said the tenor of borrowing is expected to be broadly in the range of 3 to 5 years. The government has evolved a special borrowing window to address the shortfall in the GST collection during the year 2020-2021. 21 states and 2 union territories opted for this special window involving back-to-back borrowing coordinated by the Ministry of Finance. In Bihar, campaigning for the first phase of elections has reached its peak. Star campaigners and stalwarts of different political parties are addressing multiple rallies in a single day. The campaigning will end on Monday for this phase. Polling will be held on the 28th of October in 71 assembly segments spread over 16 districts. Senior BJP leader and Prime Minister Narendra Modi today alleged that the parties who are standing against the NDA are opposed to the growth of the country. Addressing an election meeting at Bhagalpur, the Prime Minister criticized the previous regime in Bihar, which he said supported the Maoists and wants to make the state sick and helpless, while the National Democratic Alliance wants to work to help people.
राष्ट्र हित में कोई भी कुछ भी फैसला ले, ये लोग विरोध में है। हमेशा विरोध में रहने वाले ये लोग बिहार को विकास नहीं, बर्बादी के पुराने रास्ते पर ही ले जाएंगे। ये सिर्फ सत्ता सुख के हैं, आपकी जनता की सेवा से, आपकी जरूरतों से इन लोगों का कोई सरोकार नहीं है।
The Prime Minister invoked the reign of crime and loot during the 15-year rule of the Rashtriya Janata Dal as he sought people's vote for the NDA to ensure the state's continuous journey towards development. He accused the opposition parties of betraying the people of Bihar and their pride. The Prime Minister sought votes for another term of the NDA government under Nitish Kumar. He said the people of Bihar know that it is important to make Nitish Kumar the Chief Minister again for faster development of the state. Appealing to the people of the state, Prime Minister Modi said each and every citizen of Bihar must cast their vote in the upcoming assembly elections, following all COVID-19 guidelines and social distancing norms.
आपको मतदान केंद्र पर वोट डालने के लिए जरूर पहुंचना है। हमें कोरोना संक्रमण से बचाव के लिए जो भी जरूरी कायदे हैं, उनका हमें पूरा पालन भी करना है। एक और आग्रह मैं आपसे करूंगा, त्योहारों का सीजन है, इसलिए जो भी खरीदारी आप करेंगे, अधिक से अधिक लोकल खरीदेंगे।
Earlier in the day, the Prime Minister addressed rallies at Dehri on Son in Sasaram and Gaya in the state. Senior Congress leader Rahul Gandhi today started his poll campaign with election rallies from Hiswa and Kahalgaon. He alleged that the NDA government, both at the centre and state, has failed to fulfill promises. He said in Kahalgaon, the BJP is promising 19 lakh jobs at the time of elections, but they must give account of their performance in the last 7 years. The Congress leader alleged that the Narendra Modi-led government at the centre has ruined the economy. He added, demonetization and GST have badly affected small merchants. BSP Chief Mayawati and RLSP President Upendra Kushwaha-led Grand Democratic Secular Front GDSF today launched the poll campaign jointly from Kargahar in Rohtas district. Addressing a rally in Bhabua, the BSP chief said that the lockdown was a nightmare for migrant workers of Bihar. She criticized the Nitish Kumar government for its failure to provide employment to migrants in their own state. Our correspondent reports that the star campaigners of several political parties are hopping from one constituency to another to woo the voters.
Senior RJD leader Tejasvi Prasad Yadav addressed multiple rallies in Navada, Nalanda and Gaya. Mr. Yadav said in Tekari that corruption is rampant in government departments and people at grassroots level suffering from this. LJP Chief Chirag Paswan claimed in Govindpur in Navada that in this election the mood of public is clearly against the Nitish Kumar-led government. The Jan Adhikar Party Chief Pappu Yadav said if voted to power, his government will provide 40 lakh jobs in next 5 years. Leaders of the left parties also addressed several public meetings. Dharmendra Kumar Rai, AIR News, Patna.
Union Health Minister Dr. Harshvardhan has said that the next 3 months are going to be decisive in determining the situation of COVID in the country. He was speaking after reviewing COVID-19 preparedness and measures for ensuring COVID-appropriate behavior with the Health and Medical Education Ministers and other senior officials of Uttar Pradesh. The meeting was held through video conferencing. Dr. Vardhan informed that in the last 3 months, the country has seen significant improvement in all the COVID parameters. He said from recording over 95,000 cases in a day, the COVID cases have substantially come down to less than 55,000 cases in a day. He said the recovery rate of India is nearing 90% and the case fatality rate is also declining. He said CFR stands at 1.51% and is moving towards the target of below 1%. The Health Minister further added that the number of active cases are less than 7 lakh and the doubling rate has increased to 97.2 days as of now. He also informed that Uttar Pradesh has a fatality rate of 1.46, which is less than the national average. The recovery rate of the state is 92.2% and the positivity rate is 3.44%. India has leaped across a significant milestone in its fight against COVID-19. The active case load of the country has fallen below 7 lakh for the first time after nearly 2 months. The total positive cases in the country today are 6,95,509, which comprises nearly 8.96% of the total reported cases. The total recovered cases are nearly 70 lakh and the difference between active cases and recovered cases is also consistently widening. The recovered cases are nearly 10 times more than the active cases. Nearly 74,000 patients have recovered and were discharged in the last 24 hours, whereas the new confirmed cases reported in the same time span stood at nearly 54,000. The national recovery rate has further progressed to 89.53%. The Health Ministry informed that 690 case fatalities were reported in the last 24 hours. The country also crossed a new peak of conducting more than 10 crore COVID tests till date. During the last 24 hours, more than 14,42,000 tests were conducted. Kerala continues to report a surge in COVID cases as 8,511 new cases were confirmed today. Also, 6,118 people recovered from the infection today. 26 more deaths were confirmed due to COVID-19, taking the death toll in the state to 1,281. Over 64,000 samples were tested across the state in the last 24 hours. The total active COVID cases in Kerala rose to 95,657. State Health Minister K.K. Shailaja urged people to strictly follow COVID guidelines and avoid crowding during the Navratri festival.
Former captain of the Indian hockey team, Zafar Iqbal, has urged people to continue to wear masks, wash hands and maintain social distancing during the festive season. Talking to AIR News, Mr. Iqbal said to stay safe, people should follow COVID protocols.
जैसा कि प्रधानमंत्री साहब ने कहा है कि फेस्टिवल सीजन चल रहा है, उसमें हाथ धोने, मास्क लगाना है, सोशल डिस्टेंसिंग रखना है और हम चाहते हैं कि हर वक्त साफ सुथरा रहें, सफाई करते रहें, तो हम लोग जो है सेफ रहेंगे और खुश रहेंगे.
Professor of Ophthalmology at AIIMS New Delhi, Dr. Radhika Tandon says people should not become complacent towards COVID-19. Talking to AIR News, she said the only way to avoid infection is to follow precautions.
This disease must not be taken lightly because your irresponsibility can actually be life-threatening for someone else. So, to avoid the infection is to wear a mask whenever you step out of the house and even inside the house if you are meeting an elderly person. So you have to maintain a minimum distance of 2 meters and repeated hand washing with soap and water. Where soap and water is not easily available, then you please use the sanitizer.
The government today rejected a notice circulating on social media which claimed that CTET 2020 examination has been postponed till 5th of November 2020. The Press Information Bureau termed the notice as fake. The CBSE has said the exam date will be announced on the CTET website. You are listening to the evening news on All India Radio. A reminder of the headlines before we move on. Finance Ministry releases 6,000 crore rupees to states to address shortfall in GST revenue. Electioneering in full swing in Bihar. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Congress leader Rahul Gandhi address election rallies. Government imposes stock limit to check rise in onion prices. Health Minister Dr. Harshvardhan says next 3 months will be decisive in containing COVID-19 in the country. COVID recovery rate improves to 89.53%, and in IPL cricket, match between Chennai Super Kings and Mumbai Indians is underway at Sharjah. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle @AIR News Alerts.
चलो मिलकर एक शुरुआत करें, चलो एक फैसला आज करें, मास्क नहीं तो टोकेंगे, कोरोना को रोकेंगे, चलो एक इरादा करते हैं, चलो कुछ वादा करते हैं, मास्क नहीं तो टोकेंगे, कोरोना को रोकेंगे।
अरे भाई सुना तुमने? अरे इस मुश्किल समय में सरकार ने हम कामगारों की मदद के लिए एक और बड़ा कदम उठाया है।
कौन सा कदम?
पात्रता के नियमों में छूट के साथ ESIC ने अटल बीमित व्यक्ति कल्याण योजना के तहत मिलने वाली राहत राशि को बढ़ाकर दुगना कर दिया है। हाँ
अच्छा, पात्रता की शर्तों को पूरा करने वाले जरूरतमंद बीमित व्यक्ति राहत के लिए ऑनलाइन दावा www.esic.in पर करें। अधिक जानकारी के लिए अपने नजदीकी ESIC शाखा कार्यालय से संपर्क करें या फिर टोल फ्री नंबर 1800-112526 पर कॉल करें।
The government today said it has taken steps to moderate prices and availability of onion in the country. Briefing media in New Delhi, Consumer Affairs Secretary Leela Nandan said a stock limit has been imposed on onions with effect from today, which is 25 metric tons for wholesalers and 2 metric tons for retailers for a period up to 31st December 2020.
ये जो स्टॉक लिमिट्स लगाए गए हैं, इसका मैसेज ये है कि नो वन इज टू होल्ड द अनियंस एंड मैनिपुलेट द प्राइसेस, जिसका नुकसान आम कंज्यूमर को पूरे देश में सहन करना पड़े. दैट इज द वेरी स्ट्रांग मैसेज दैट वी आर गिविंग आउट.
She added, in order to moderate the price rise, the government took a preemptive step by announcing a ban on onion export on the 14th of last month so as to ensure availability to domestic consumers at reasonable rates before the expected arrival of Kharif onion. The secretary said the retail price rise has moderated to some extent, but recent reports of heavy rainfall in onion growing districts of Maharashtra, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh have created concerns about damage to Kharif crop. She said developments on the weather front have contributed to the sharp increase in onion prices. Ms. Nandan said to tide over the present situation, the government has stepped up disposal of onions through the built-up buffer stock of 1 lakh metric ton from the Rabi onion 2020. The release of onion from the buffer stock is being carried out swiftly but in a calibrated manner from the second half of September to major mandis as well as to the retail suppliers in major cities and also through state governments. The Telangana government has decided to purchase maize at a support price of 1,850 rupees per quintal through Markfed. The procurement will be done from the purchasing centre set up at all villages for paddy procurement. Chief Minister K. Chandrasekhar Rao announced this after a high-level review meeting held in Hyderabad today. He asked maize farmers to avail this facility. He said the government has come forward to purchase maize so that the farmers do not suffer losses as there is no demand for maize across the country. The Chief Minister recalled that the government had discouraged farmers to cultivate maize during the Kharif season as there is no scope of MSP for the crop. He said some farmers cultivated maize despite the government's advice. During the last Rabi season, Markfed purchased 9 lakh tons of maize at 1,668 crore rupees. However, it incurred losses to the tune of 845 crore rupees as there was no demand for maize.
Maharashtra government has announced a 10,000 crore rupees relief package for the districts affected by excessive retreating rains that hit the state earlier this month. Addressing a press conference in Mumbai this afternoon, Chief Minister Uddhav Thackeray said the government will try to ensure that the compensation reaches the affected families before Diwali. Lakhs of hectares of standing crops like sugarcane, soybean, rice, lentils, pomegranate and cotton were destroyed in the torrential rains that hugely affected Solapur, Sangli, Kolhapur, Satara, Osmanabad, Latur, Bid and Aurangabad districts. More from our Mumbai correspondent.
Mr. Uddhav Thackeray said the money would be used not only to compensate farmers whose crops have been destroyed, but also to rebuild houses, restore power, repair bridges and roads. Thackeray announced that farmers will receive 10,000 rupees per hectare for damages incurred for rain-fed crops, while 25,000 rupees per hectare will be paid for loss of horticulture crops. The compensation will be limited for losses incurred only up to 2 hectares of land per farmer. Already running short on resources, Mr. Thackeray said his government will not shy away from taking loans if required. Welcoming the decision, NCP Chief Sharad Pawar said today's announcement proves that the Maha Vikas Aghadi government stands firmly with the farmers in their hour of need. Nisha Rani, AIR News, Mumbai.
The 5-member interministerial central team led by Joint Secretary Praveen Vashisht visited several flood-affected areas in Hyderabad and other districts of Telangana today. They assessed the extent of damage caused by the floods. The central team met officials and people of flood-affected areas to get first-hand information. More from a correspondent.
The 2-day field visit of the central team concluded today. The central team has visited the state soon after the calamities struck the state. The team has met several sources to come to an assessment on the extent of damages incurred in different sectors due to heavy rains and following floods. The members of the team collected information from state senior officials, experts and people who lost everything in the highest rains in the past 100 years in Hyderabad. They visited the breached tanks and observed restoration works. They interacted with Hyderabad MP Asaduddin Owaisi and Secunderabad MP and Minister of State for Home G. Kishan Reddy on the occasion. They also visited agriculture fields and witnessed the damage occurred to standing crops. The team will be submitting its report over the damages occurred to Telangana state due to the recent heavy rains. Lakshmi, AIR News, Hyderabad.
In its continuous endeavour to cover more workers under the Employees State Insurance ESI scheme, the centre has extended the scheme to Arunachal Pradesh from the 1st of next month. A notification to this effect has been issued by the central government for notifying the district of Papum Pare under the ESI scheme. The Ministry of Labour and Employment said all factories located in the district of Papum Pare employing 10 or more people will become eligible for coverage under ESI Act 1948. The ministry said the covered employees and their dependents will become eligible for a host of benefits including cashless medical care services, sickness benefit and maternity benefit. The ministry also said that arrangements for medical care are being made through a newly opened dispensary cum branch office at Itanagar. In Tripura, the state government has doled out 1 lakh rupees each to 136 returnee militants and their families as financial assistance to improve their living. Chief Minister Biplab Kumar Deb handed over the money to the surrendered militants at a function held in Agartala yesterday. The Chief Minister said his government has handed over the monetary assistance as promised earlier, adhering to the pact signed with the banned organization following their surrender. He appealed to all to take advantage of the state and central schemes to establish themselves and their families and move forward in life. The beneficiaries, who are undergoing government-sponsored skill training program, have expressed satisfaction as the relief came during the festive season. Officials said that of all the recipients, 88 people were directly involved in militancy and the others were their family members. These militants rejoined the mainstream on 13th August last year after they laid down arms.
A major explosion in a firecracker unit in Tamil Nadu killed 5 women workers this afternoon. The incident occurred at T. Kalupatti village in Madurai district. About 50 workers were involved in manufacturing the fancy variety of firecrackers when the explosion occurred, killing 5 on the spot. 3 others were admitted to hospital at Madurai with grievous injuries. The fire and rescue personnel from Madurai and Virudhunagar rushed to the spot and doused the fire. It is said the manufacturing unit did not have the permission for the fancy type. A case has been filed against the owner of the unit. This is All India Radio giving you the news.
देखिए फिल्म जगत के कई मशहूर कलाकारों के साथ भगवान श्री राम के जन्म स्थान अयोध्या से रामलीला डीडी नेशनल पर लाइव 17 से 25 अक्टूबर रोज शाम 7 बजे से रात 10 बजे तक और इसका पुनः प्रसारण 18 से 26 अक्टूबर डीडी भारती पर सुबह 9 बजे से दोपहर 12 बजे तक और दोपहर 3 बजे से शाम 6 बजे तक डीडी नेशनल पर।
सुनिए संस्कृत जगत से जुड़ी हुई विभिन्न गतिविधियों के साथ आकाशवाणी से प्रसारित विशेष कार्यक्रम संस्कृत साप्ताहिकी अब नए समय पर प्रत्येक शनिवार प्रातः 11:20 से आकाशवाणी के समाचार चैनल FM गोल्ड पर तथा पुनः प्रसारण रविवार प्रातः 11:20 से।
Lieutenant General Nandkishore Sahu today took charge as Director General, Dental Services and Colonel Commandant of Army Dental Corps. During his distinguished military career of 37 years, he has held multiple appointments, including command of a unit in Kashmir Valley, command advisor of Western, Central and Southern Commands. On taking over, Lieutenant General N.K. Sahu exhorted all ranks to continue working with utmost zeal and enthusiasm. He urged them to continue on the path to strive for excellence and to keep nation first in all their endeavours.
Director at Society for Policy Studies and noted defence analyst Commodore C. Uday Bhaskar has said that the 2+2 ministerial dialogue between Indian defence and foreign ministers and their US counterparts, scheduled to be held on October 27th, holds high significance after the recent Quad meet in Tokyo, Japan. He said the meeting is likely to witness signing of few very important defence agreements between the two countries.
The two issues that would come up for some degree of progress would be the agreements between India and the United States, and particularly the geospatial agreement which is referred to as BICA. My sense is that there would be some movement on this. And the second is the deliberations of the foreign ministers in Tokyo, the Quad foreign ministers, had hinted at certain areas where there would be some, again, agreement at the bilateral level.
Defence Minister Rajnath Singh will be on a 2-day visit to Darjeeling and Sikkim from tomorrow. During the visit, the Defence Minister will visit forward areas and interact with troops. He will perform Shastra Puja on Dussehra and inaugurate an infrastructure project built by Border Roads Organisation. Pakistan will remain in the grey list of global anti-terror financing watchdog Financial Action Task Force (FATF), as it has not been able to fulfill 6 out of the 27 mandates to check terror funding. The decision was announced by the President of FATF, Marcus Blair, today. The FATF strongly urged Pakistan to swiftly complete its full action plan by February 2021. It said Pakistan needs to do more to check terror funding, adding that the 6 items which Pakistan is yet to address are serious deficiencies. The implementation plan to curb money laundering and terror financing was supposed to be put in place by the end of 2019. However, the deadline was extended in the wake of COVID pandemic. The FATF is an intergovernmental body set up in 1989 to combat money laundering, terror financing and other related threats to the international financial system. It currently has 39 members. These include 2 regional organizations, the European Commission and Gulf Cooperation Council.
After 35 years, India has assumed the chairmanship of the governing body of International Labour Organization, ILO. It marks a new chapter in the 100 years of productive relationship between India and the ILO. Labour and Employment Secretary Apurva Chandra has been elected as the chairperson of the governing body of the ILO for the period October 2020 to June 2021. The governing body is the apex executive body of the ILO, which decides policies, programs, agendas, budget and elects the Director General. At present, the ILO has 187 members. Mr. Chandra will preside over the upcoming meeting of the governing body to be held next month. At Geneva, he would have the opportunity to interact with the senior officials and social partners of the member states. It will also provide a platform to appraise participants of the transformational initiatives taken by India in removing the rigidities of labour market, besides making its intention clear about universalization of social security to all workers. Mr. Chandra belongs to the 1988 batch of the Indian Administrative Service, Maharashtra cadre. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will virtually inaugurate 3 key projects in Gujarat tomorrow. He will also launch the Kisan Suryoday Yojana for the farmers of Gujarat. He will inaugurate the pediatric heart hospital attached with the UN Mehta Institute of Cardiology and Research Centre and a mobile application for telecardiology at the Ahmedabad Civil Hospital. Prime Minister will also inaugurate the ropeway at Girnar on the occasion.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi will share his thoughts with the people in the country and abroad in the Mann Ki Baat program on All India Radio at 11 a.m. on Sunday. It will be the 70th episode of the monthly radio program. It will be broadcast on the entire network of AIR and Doordarshan and also on AIR News website www.newsonair.com and News on Air mobile app. It will also be streamed live on the YouTube channels of AIR, DD News, PMO and Information and Broadcasting Ministry. In Himachal Pradesh, the International Snow Leopard Day was celebrated today by the State Forest Department Wildlife Wing in association with the United Nations Development Programme at Killar of Pangi in Chamba district. Snow leopard is the state animal of Himachal Pradesh. The state government is working for their conservation in collaboration with non-governmental organizations in tribal district of Lahul Spiti. A report.
On this occasion, Nukkad Natak, folk dance and other activities were organized to spread awareness about the conservation of snow leopard. During the event, local heroes, including the frontline staff of Wildlife Department, were honored for the commendable work done by them in the field of wildlife conservation. Snow leopard is found in tribal district Lahul Spiti and Pangi and Bharmor in Chamba district. With aim to increase the number of snow leopard, the state government has set up the Himalayan Snow Leopard Research Center in collaboration with Nature Conservation Foundation at Kibber in Lahul Spiti. In Himachal Pradesh, their number is close to 100. Sanjeev Sundaryal, AIR News, Shimla.
Now let us look at the weather forecast for tomorrow. The national capital Delhi will have a misty sky with the temperature hovering between 14 and 34 degrees Celsius. Mumbai will see a partly cloudy sky with 1 or 2 spells of rain or thunder showers. The lower level of temperature in the metropolis will be 24 and the upper level will be 28. Chennai is likely to see a generally cloudy sky with light rain. The temperature will oscillate between 26 and 34. Kolkata is expected to have a generally cloudy sky with heavy rain. The minimum temperature in the metropolitan will be 25 degrees Celsius and the maximum 29. Jammu and Srinagar cities will see mainly clear sky. In Jammu, the minimum temperature will be 16 degrees Celsius while maximum nearly 32. In Srinagar, temperature will vary between 3 to 24 degrees Celsius. Leh will see a mainly clear sky, but minimum temperature will be minus 5 degrees Celsius, while the maximum will be nearly 20 degrees. Gilgit will see a mainly clear sky becoming partly cloudy towards afternoon or evening, with temperature hovering between 4 to 28 degrees Celsius. In Muzaffarabad, lower limit of temperature will be 10 degrees Celsius, while upper limit will be 30 degrees. The sky will remain mainly clear.
In IPL cricket, Chennai Super Kings were on 73 runs for 8 wickets in 16 overs at Sharjah a short while ago. Earlier, Mumbai Indians won the toss and elected to bowl. Tomorrow, there will be 2 matches. The first match between Kolkata Knight Riders and Delhi Capitals will begin at 3:30 p.m. In the second match, Kings 11 Punjab will clash with Sunrisers Hyderabad at 7:30 p.m. And now, before we close the headlines once again, Finance Ministry releases 6,000 crore rupees to states to address shortfall in GST revenue. Electioneering is in full swing in Bihar. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Congress leader Rahul Gandhi address election rallies. Government imposes stock limit to check rise in onion prices. Health Minister Dr. Harshvardhan says next 3 months will be decisive to contain COVID-19 in the country. COVID recovery rate improves to 89.53%. And in IPL cricket, match between Chennai Super Kings and Mumbai Indians is underway at Sharjah. For details of these stories and more, log on to our website www.newsonair.com and News on Air app. And with that, we end the evening news. Good night.